can we expect from you?
Yeah, well, Joe, it's been interesting because most of my life I think I've lived from the neck up. So what I mean is I've been very kind of what would be traditionally called left brain. I relied a lot on my smarts, I thought, to make a difference instead of my heart. And I've been very privileged that in the last 10 or 15 years, I've had an opportunity to experience a lot of personal development courses, also therapy, both couples therapy and group therapy and those types of things. And I happened to run across a method of framework of psychotherapy called internal family systems. Most people know it, IFS or IFS parts. This was made popular in the 1980s by Richard Schwartz, but it's only just resurged, I think, to at least to my knowledge, in the last couple of years. So what's really neat is that my ideation and my individualization kind of is combining some of this work that I've done as a participant, not even as an overachieving analytical brain, but as a participant in this IFS conversation with some therapists and coaches that I've had the opportunity to work with. And I wanted to say, well, what if our Clifton strengths, our top 10, 15 talents were patterns that as kids, we ended up having this IFS parts framework, where basically IFS says that sometimes as kids, something happens that we may or may not interpret as a trauma. But because of that, we get parts that show up, and they show up in firefighter mode, like protector mode, or proactive mode, like managers. And so I was just curious, and this is what we're going to have a conversation about. I'm going to bring some examples about how, what if some of our talents, we talk about the balcony in the basement, we talk about the genius, right, and the shadows. Well, I'm going to maybe bring a new perspective and talk about managers, firefighters, and that third part that's called exiles. What if some of our talents could be organized or categorized into these IFS parts framework, this framework? And so that being said, I'm going to ask everyone to bring all of their parts, or in this case, all of their strengths, all of their talents, whatever they seem is most natural to them. And we're going to have a conversation about how I can take the IFS parts framework and maybe in your coaching practice, you can bring this to there, or potentially just in your own practice, you can start thinking, oh, why does my analytical always show up as a win at work, but when I'm on a date or a first a blind date or some type, or when I'm in couples counseling or something, that analytical part just kind of shows up in this like reactive mode. That's what we're going to have a conversation about.